Hello. Oh, hi, Darlene. I'm glad to see you too. How are you? Okay. Hey guys, welcome to the video. And if you're watching the replay, thank you for being here. You guys can let me know where you're watching from. That would be great. This is me when I haven't had time to shower after my kickboxing class. And I need to just get Instagram on here real quick. I want to see if Facebook is on here this time. So if you're watching from Facebook, let me know. Can you comment for me and let me know that you can see it from Facebook? Because last week it wasn't working from Facebook, and I want to make sure that it's working. All right, let me get Instagram going. Give me a couple minutes here to get my technical stuff going, guys. Sorry, I was a little bit crazy running around. We're going to talk today about rebellion, which I know is something that comes up for a lot of us, and it's kind of interchangeable with the whole self-sabotage. I don't see any Facebook people. Okay, let me get Instagram first, and then I'm not sure why Facebook isn't showing up. Yeah, nobody's from Facebook. Hello, Rochelle from Western North Carolina. You're watching on YouTube, and Darlene is watching from the East Coast of Canada. How fun. Deborah watching from Calgary, Canada. Jess, hello, watching from Connecticut. So good. Look, nobody's here from Facebook. We definitely have something going on with Facebook. Michelle, maybe we can look at this later. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that I changed the name, but it was working before. I'm going to try to remove the Facebook and then try to put it back on real quick. Let me see what happens when I do that. I don't know. We'll see. It's looking like it's just YouTube right now, but that's all right. We'll try to figure out what's going on there. Yeah, I had changed my, to how to stop binge eating forever. And I'm wondering if it's like I have to like rehook it up in StreamYard or something. If it was going from because there's clearly nobody from Facebook on here, unfortunately. I wonder if I can, let me try one more thing. Bear with me, guys. So if you're watching the replay, just skip forward a little bit. No, I can't figure it out while I'm live right now. Boo. Okay, well, that's a bummer. But we'll just leave it how it is, and then hopefully, yeah. I don't know why it's not working. I'll have to figure that out, and then we'll try to get it working next week. Okay, so we'll just do YouTube and Instagram today. Unfortunately, Facebook is not working. The connection with StreamYard and Facebook is not working. Oh, you know what? Why don't I let's see if I can just go, well, maybe it won't let me do it because it will take the camera of that. Hold on. Yeah, I don't think I can. I wonder, well, it says I'm on Facebook and I can see it's live. Sharon says, I see you on Facebook. Oh, there, it is working. Okay. Oh, thank you, Sharon. Good, it is working. All right, sweet. That's good news. Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate that. Because I was getting only YouTube people and I thought, okay, sorry, let's keep going. So if you go to my Facebook page, which is the facebook.com, I think it's / how to stop binging forever. I'm not sure. On my actual page, not on the group, but on the page, it's going. It's not going on the group though, I don't think. Okay. So let's move on. Hello, friends. Hello, friends on Instagram. I'm so happy to see you too. So I got both my windows open here, and I've got Facebook and YouTube here, and then I've got Instagram over here. So today, what are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about rebellion today. So let me know in the comment section, what are some reasons or things that you do when you're rebelling? And we mean rebellion about like, say you chose a food plan or you decided to do a diet or something like that, and everything was going great for a while, and then all of a sudden something flipped in your head and you were like, I don't want to do this anymore, and then you stopped doing the things that you were doing in the beginning. Does that seem familiar to any of you guys? How does it come up for you? I'm going to also hook up my iPad here because I've got a little bit of a we can look at this on the screen here too. So how does it come up for you guys when you, okay, so Sharon, here, let me make this a little smaller. So Sharon says, I make up stories in my head on why I deserve whatever I'm craving. Yeah, that's a really good example of rebellion for sure. Make up stories in your head on why you need to have that reason. Maybe we're tired, or we had a really long week, or we've been doing well for so long. And, we need to just have we need to have the other thing just for a little bit. Right. And then that usually ends up being this process where we go downhill. Any other examples here of how we rebel? Okay. So we have my screen up here now. Rebellion. It's kind of also self-sabotage, right? Sharon. Or I get really sassy and say, I don't care. Exactly. Which is so funny because we totally do care. It's the whole reason we did the thing in the first place, but we're like pretending that we don't care in that moment. It's not really real. Cheri, this is really good too. I'm either not prepared food-wise or I tell myself I deserve something different. Absolutely. And it's funny because anyone who's going to comment on this, we're all going to say the same stuff, right? That rebellion works in the same way. And this self-sabotage. If you've been following me for any period of time, I don't really love the word self-sabotage or self-sabotage in general because it's such a dramatic word. And even the fact that rebellion draws up ideas of this teenager and like, oh, this is too hard and I don't want this and I don't like this, as if it's too hard to do what we were doing. But we did it for a few days, so we proved that we can do it. It really is just the way we're thinking about it, that it's a mindset thing. Rochelle here as well. This is another one. I get depressed and overwhelmed and feel a sort of giving up. Yep. You can do okay for a while, you can do something for a little bit, and then all of a sudden it's just like, too much. Maybe some things happen in our life or our thoughts just start to become overwhelming and we decide not to keep going. Anyone over here on Instagram have any ideas about rebellion or anything that you experience when you're rebelling? So I actually have a really good list here of some examples of rebellious eating. We'll get into that in a minute. We're going to be talking a little bit of insights, practical tips to help you understand the relationship with food and regain control over that. But first, I want to talk about why do we rebel in the first place? Why does that happen? So, why? In my program, one of the things we talk about is the idea of realistic, like what is realistic for what we're eating and how we're eating, right? Would it be realistic to go from one type of eating to all of a sudden this perfect, exact type of eating where you're not doing anything wrong and all that? Is it realistic? And so much of the time when we say we get so frustrated with how our weight is or how we're feeling or how we've been eating, how we've been overeating, we get so frustrated that we just want to do the complete opposite, right? And it's this pendulum swing that's the issue, where we're constantly like on one end of the extremes or the others. And it seems like equal and opposite would make sense. Like you're on this end, you need to go to this end. In fact, what we really want in the future is to be able to be in a state of flow, right? We want to be able to be in a state of flow. What do I mean by flow? It's like we're not really connected so much emotionally to how we're eating. We just kind of eat. And like when we're hungry, we eat. When we're full, we stop and we just kind of move on. We don't want to be so emotionally connected to what's happening with food. And so I think a lot of people expect it, because also we've had so much excitement and positivity from food, this really hyper palatable stuff, that it makes our level of enjoyment so high that in comparison with super strict eating, very quickly, like if you quickly go to doing this one type of eating, whatever that strict is for you, you're, oh, my iPad fell off. I'll try to fix that in a second. You end up having such an extreme of experience that all of a sudden it just doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel fun anymore. It doesn't feel good. And so that's what I mean with this pendulum. Like when you're going from one extreme to another, the contrast is so stark that it's really hard to stick with it, right? And so we use rebellion then to say, oh, this is too hard. I don't want to do this. And there's a lot of ways that we rebel. So one thing I put here, the reasons why, is because we've actually chosen a plan that is just like, it's too strict compared to where we were. And one of the weird cognitive dissonance things that comes up is that people say, well, I should be eating that way. You know, let's say we're pendulum from standard American diet to salads, soups, and smoothies, you know, vegan or something. If we're trying to pendulum between those two, it's such a stark contrast that even our dopamine levels are just, you know, our experience of pleasure with those foods is so contrasting that we have this real cognitive dissonance of like, oh, this, you know, I don't like this, whatever. And then we'll use rebellion as the excuse to get out of it. But it's more of a subconscious thing. And now, why is it subconscious? Because we've just practiced it so many times, right? The thing with rebellion that's tough is that it's often subconscious, like choosing to be rebellious. It comes across more like it might feel like you're actually having these thoughts, but you're not listening to your thoughts enough. Oh, I forgot my iPad wasn't hooked up. One sec. Let me see if I can fix that. One sec, guys. I'll just try to keep talking while I'm trying to fix this thing. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. Tech is always the issue. Okay. So you're subconsciously choosing to be rebellious, but you don't even notice you're doing it because you've done it so many times. And the way that like, why that happens is, okay, so let's say you're younger, you're in your kind of formative years, 12, 15, whatever, or 6, doesn't matter what it is. And you decide to be rebellious for whatever reason. Maybe you're even a little bit older. Let's say, you know, you're starting to think about weight loss or whatever, and then you start this little pattern of rebellion. It might even be rebellion towards your parents, but this first start of rebellion, you know, you have like step number 1, rebel against parents or yourself. Now, in the beginning, these acts of rebellion, they're not really that big of a deal. But what happens is as you practice it more, it gets more and more of a strong signal for your brain that rebellion is a thing that we do. Because we just keep repeating it over the years, over and over and over and over again. And then you could think of like those connections between the neurons in your brain. So these neural connections of like the electricity actually flowing through and saying this message of like, oh, you know, I don't feel like planning ahead anymore, or I just want comfort. Like you said, like I'm just not prepared food wise, like, or I deserve something different. Those get so much stronger, and you just keep practicing those things. And those neural connections get stronger and stronger to a point where this is like not really automatic. This is kind of like you choose this, you choose it, you choose it. But the more you choose it, the more and more automatic it gets until it's like fully automatic. And that rebellion thing is something that you just keep doing over and over again without even thinking about it anymore. You can liken it to brushing your teeth or any kind of thing that you've learned over the years. We know that our brain is capable of learning. It's one of the best things about the brain, that it can learn very quickly, and you can learn at any age. You can learn new stuff. You can learn languages, all that. But if the brain can learn the good stuff, it can also learn the bad stuff, which is the negative to it. So the brain is sitting here learning that rebellion is comfortable and it feels good, right? It's efficient. It gets us the fastest calories. So listen, we're going to rebel, and I'm going to keep reminding you that rebellion is the way. And then now these thoughts that you have, let me take one. Cheri said, for instance, she said, I deserve something different. This word deserve is really big in a lot of our vocabularies, right? I deserve, it's been a really hard week. I deserve something else. I've worked hard for this last few days. I deserve something now. So this word deserve is actually something that we've practiced now. And now this idea of deserving is our automatic. That's our just natural thing that we always end up going to. So this is the pattern of why rebellion becomes something like, I can't tell you how many clients would say to me, I don't know why I keep rebelling against myself. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, right? It's so illogical. I know I want to lose weight, but then I end up rebelling. The reason you're confused and the reason you can't quite put together why you keep doing it is because you're in the automatic state of it, right? You're in automatic rebellion. Back in the day, you might have noticed when you did your rebellion or whatever, but now it's just so automatic. It's like programmed in the brain that it's just a thing that you do. And your brain's like, oh, right, I know how we get out of these diets. I know how we get more food is to rebel. Now let's talk about some ways that we actually do rebel. Okay. So some of you guys gave some really good ones already. If you can think of any others, let me know. We talked about the strictness thing. For instance, when you've put yourself on a very strict, like we said, that pendulum, strict diet, so to speak, and then you suddenly crave all those foods that are not on your plan, right? And that's when it's important for us to actually think about what does realistic planning look like? Realistic planning, right? What does realistic look like? Well, it doesn't mean like cutting everything out, right? It means let's be realistic about where we are right now. And we're not saying let's give up and, just, yeah, right. That's exactly right, Cheri. That's kind of what I'm trying to say here. So I agree about being careful to not choose a plan that's too strict for you. For me, it can trigger a binge and diet cycle. Automaticity is much easier when you choose a plan you can handle long term. That's right. And the fun part about this is that when we do actually, this is the part that most people don't know, but when you actually choose a plan that's realistic for you right now, the thing I was going to say a second ago was you might be bummed like, oh, but that's not how I want to be eating. I know I need to be eating more vegetables or whatever, right? Your other brain goes, oh my gosh, this is bad. I shouldn't be eating what I'm eating right now. And then that can sort of trigger that because you feel like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. Oh, whatever. I'll just eat whatever. When you have gotten good with realistic planning and you're in a place of, oh, I'm kind of eating how I was eating before, but I'm planning, so I'm eating less. The more your brain gets used to trusting you and your body gets used to you actually following through on your plans, you start to release a little bit of the, oh my gosh, I can't. And then you get more towards, I can have whatever I want. And then the next step, which most people would think is, oh my gosh, I'm going to gain 300 pounds. No, the next step logically for the brain when you're releasing restriction is now I want a salad, or now I really want to eat something that's good for me. So it doesn't, you might be afraid to start planning realistically because you think it's going to end in you eating like crazy stuff. But the only reason we do that crazy eating and the binging is because we're telling ourselves we can't have it. But if we truly get to the space of, I can, now what do I want? Right? I can have it. Now what do I want? I can have, and like, it's like, let's say I had a little smorgasbord here of all these different foods, and it was like, fried foods, salad, hot dogs, pizza, vegetables and hummus, whatever. I've got this whole platter, and I'm like, here, choose what you want. And you're looking at that platter, and if you're telling yourself, if you really do feel inside of you that you could have any of those things, we get to this place of, okay, but what do I actually want right now? And what this is the part that people don't really understand, is that what you want ends up being the thing that's going to make you feel the best, which is probably the salad or the hummus and vegetables or whatever. Because the work that we do is desensitizing you towards those other foods that might be really challenging for you, right? We got to desensitize to that stuff to the point where we actually do know we can have those things. We start by doing realistic planning in that way. So for instance, if we're having, let's say we always binge on pizza, or we always binge on M&Ms at the movies or something like that, right? We're going to just plan to do that. So what I always say to people, the very first step, plan. That's the first step of my program anyway. My method is just to start planning exactly what you're doing now. That's a realistic plan. So plan what you're doing now. So for instance, let's say you had a real big binge day, and you had, you just had a lot of binge foods, and you had them in, I don't know, say you had like, half a pizza, a bunch of Coke, you had some cookies, maybe you had like 8 cookies or something like that. Say that this is a binge for you. All I want you to do is the next day, you're going to plan exactly this. You're going to plan to binge. Okay, this is really weird. It's really, really strange, right? And it doesn't have to have been a binge. It can just be a little overeat too. So there, I'm recognizing that there is a spectrum here to the folks that are watching this and what your patterns are. But I just want you to plan those foods on purpose. And that's how we plan realistically. Now, the reason I'm saying that is not because I'm like, oh yeah, you can gain 100 pounds, it's fine. That's not what I mean. I mean, when you plan it, because it's allowed. Sorry, let me change this. Turned off. Because it's allowed, you're automatically going to like start to realize, oh, I don't actually want this much. Like that's actually too much for me. Over time, the more you do this and the more you get used to this, and what you do is you tell yourself it's okay to plan this, because obviously I was eating it anyway. I would eat it anyway. You eat. So there's actually no harm done, because the day before, that's how you were eating anyway. So nothing is actually changing here. And you just plan it. And so this is the first step here, to just planning exactly what you're doing now. Plan on it. And the change here is that instead of the decision to eat it coming from this, I want it, the sort of lizard brain, right? Or the addictive brain kind of a thing. Instead of the call to eat it coming from there, the call to eat it comes from here, which is the prefrontal cortex, the rational, smart side of our brain that knows what we're supposed to have long term. And when you're actually making decisions from this place, and you do that more and more, you actually plan what you're doing right now realistically, your brain starts to realize in a very rational way, oh my gosh, I actually don't want to eat this much. This is actually too much for my stomach. And that can only come from you saying, yes, I'm going to stop doing this now. I'm sorry, that's not what I meant to say. That can only come from you saying, yes, I can do any of this now. Okay. That's right. Cheri says, I totally agree. I actually want healthier foods when I allow myself more calorie dense foods for a while. That's exactly right. And what this is, Cheri, and all of you, is the releasing that restriction to let yourself choose actually what you truly want in that moment. And what we truly want, as we know, is healthier foods. We want to weigh less. We want to feel better in our body. We want better energy. That's what we actually want. And we will naturally choose those foods if we've had a bunch of these for a while and we said it's okay to have them. It goes from, I can't, I shouldn't, It goes to, like, what do I want? And then the very last step, which is really fun, is I get to do, I get to eat to live, or I get to have a lot of vegetables, or I get to eat this way. I get to be free from the, this part, which is totally, I'm having a hard time finding my words today. Sorry. Which is totally like restrictive, and it feels like you're stuck and you can't get around it. Okay. Now, why do we feel stuck? It's because we're telling ourselves we can't have this stuff. I can't, I shouldn't. So those thoughts are creating restriction. Then we end up rebelling because where's that part? Because it was too strict. And when you say, also, then what happens is, and you know this too, let me know if I'm right about this, if you experience this at all, where when you actually decide to have this plan, you really want to do it. You make the plan and you start doing it even. But then your brain just kind of believes you're not going to be able to do it forever. Do you believe do you feel that with yourself? Like, you start a plan, you think it's going to be great, and then part of your brain goes, oh, you're not going to be able to do this forever. This isn't going to work forever, right? And then that's kind of when the rebellion starts kicking in, because you just don't think you can do it forever. Does anyone have that experience where they, hey Jen, yeah, where they have created something that's too strict and then they're feeling they can't do it? So then that's actually where rebellion sets in. Now, in this subconscious way, let's go through some of the reasons of some of the ways that we rebel. So we mentioned, first of all, yep, very true, says Cheri, that it's this idea that your brain starts to really psych you out, right? And that looks like this list of things. So, for instance, craving those forbidden foods, the things you said you couldn't have, ignoring your plans to meal prep. So let's say about yourself, it's really important that you kind of make stuff ahead of time, or at least have grocery shopped, right? You end up doing things like, oh, I don't feel like grocery shopping. I don't want to today. And then you're stuck without anything in your house, right? Or you're stuck having to go get something at a fast food place or a restaurant that's, kind of not quite on plan. You're not quite sticking to what you want. Sneaking things like sneaking unhealthy snacks that aren't part of your plan, and you're trying to make it seem like it's, when you're sneaking, you're kind of acting subconsciously too. You're trying to pretend like no one can see you, but the only person that matters obviously is you anyhow, right? The only person that matters in this whole thing is you. So you can't truly sneak from yourself. You can't hide what you're doing from yourself, right? And another thing is when you go to social events, ignoring those plans that you had for healthy eating as soon as you leave, not prepping ahead of time for what it's going to be like, or going to a social event super hungry without thinking about any food. Walking out the door hungry is one of the biggest reasons that we rebel or self-sabotage. We're just not thinking of ourselves, right? Skipping workouts, choosing to skip a workout and eat comfort food instead. I don't feel like it. I'm too tired. I don't want to, whatever. Late night snacking, eating junk food late at night, knowing it's not healthy, but saying, oh, I don't have any willpower anymore. I'm just so tired, whatever. Ignoring portion control, eating way more than you intended, which leaves you feeling super defeated and resentful. But going to a restaurant maybe that gives you a ton of food that they gave me this much and I don't like to waste food, so I got to keep eating this, right? Or refusing to track your food. Like, I'm not going to track anything. I'm just going to, I like spontaneity. I was just coaching on this the other day. I like spontaneity. I like not having to decide about things. And here, let me take this off because it's distracting me. I just like to be spontaneous. I want to have freedom with my food, right? And so we go from, Cheri says, restaurants or eating with others is probably hardest for me. I tend to be a people pleaser, and it's a good excuse for me to go overboard. Absolutely. And that's all it is an excuse. It's just an excuse for that subconscious brain to go, whatever, like, let's just have what we want. And it was cool. The other day I was coaching on the spontaneity idea of, when people say like, oh, I just want to be spontaneous. I don't want to have to plan. And what I kind of uncovered in coaching that was the idea that when we say we just want to be spontaneous, we don't actually want to be spontaneous. We want to eat junk food. Right? Does that ring true for anybody? It's not that we actually want freedom and spontaneity. Like, we do like that, but we could spontaneously choose a salad to eat. It's like, ooh, I planned a soup, but I'm going to have salad instead, right? That would be spontaneous. It's not the spontaneity that we want. It's the junk. It's the off plan. It's the heavy carby stuff, or the sugar, or the treats, or the steak, or whatever, the burger. We actually want the junk. So that's a way that sneaky brain tells us, oh yeah, I just want to be spontaneous. Well, we can be spontaneous, but we can do it with healthy food and stop, telling ourselves that it's because we want to be spontaneous. It's really that we just want to eat that junk, right? And then another way that we do this sort of rebellion is that this is kind of like, it's kind of a nowadays thing that we do. It's like that binge lifestyle, opting for a movie marathon with snacks instead of planned healthy meals and activities, or say you just like, you're sitting here watching something on Netflix and it's a really good show, and then you just keep watching the show, or you're sitting here on Facebook or something and you just keep scrolling, and by the time you kind of taking yourself out of reality, and then you're starved and you're not even thinking about food or whatever, and you're just kind of like binging in a lot of different ways. Binging shows, binging social media, or even, this is something that I do often, which I'm working on in myself, is like, I'll get into a project on the weekend and I'm actually just making this connection in my head right now. I'll keep doing the project. I'll be like binging doing the project, like, oh, I just want to keep doing this. I want to finish this, whatever. And I won't be thinking about my body. I won't be thinking about the fact that I'm hungry. And I'll just be like, I remember coaching someone recently about gardening, and it was similar, where she was like, I really love to garden, and I just like to be out there gardening, whatever. And by the time it's 4 p.m. and I'm starved and I haven't, so then I go in and I start binging or whatever. And what I always like to say about this one, this particular idea, this binge lifestyle, it's so prevalent and prominent nowadays just because of the way that social media is set up. And we get into these habits of just not thinking about ourselves. We just don't put ourselves first. A lot of us also have an equal and opposite idea of thinking of yourself first is selfish. So not only are we pushed to be like binging in life, binging whatever we're doing, just not thinking about ourselves, but we also are told that we shouldn't think of ourselves because it's selfish, right? Does anyone else kind of have this mentality or this feeling when they're just living life, that you're getting stuck in social media, you're getting stuck at these kinds of things, and you shouldn't really focus on you, that you should do it every once in a while. Yeah, getting a manicure, pedicure is great every once in a while, right? But don't do it too much. And I'd like to rework the definition of thinking of yourself first, because I think the idea, hello there, dear Baldy Jules Wilson, happy to see you. The idea, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Cheri, we were talking about, I want the French fries and not the broccoli. Absolutely. That's the idea of that spontaneity, when we really just want junk, right? We want an excuse to have that junk. So, so what I was talking about when it comes to this kind of binge lifestyle and taking care of yourself and what is self-care, let me ask, if someone out there could give me a list of their top 4 priorities, maybe Cheri or someone who's come on recently, if you can give me a list, just type out a list of your top 4 priorities in your life. What are they? And I'd like to do a little exercise with you guys about this for a minute. If anyone can just tell me what are their top 4 priorities in life in order, and then we'll kind of work this a little bit and I'll show you. So I always talk a lot about the oxygen mask too, right? We have to make sure that we, oh, hey. Yeah, this is hard. Greetings from Palm Coast. I'm 57 years old and I'm at a standstill. because I'm so confused because one side says eat meat, the other side says meat is bad for you. Yvette, yeah, I know this is a hard one, isn't it? What I always say is you got to find what works for Yvette. You got to find what works for you. And the big thing, the thing that actually, I think it's the wrong question, Yvette. The thing that actually matters is because it doesn't, there are people who lose weight and have a healthy body eating meat. And then there are people who lose weight and have a healthy body or, just don't overeat or whatever, not eating meat. So the question here is, how do we get healthy? How do we stop overeating? The question is how to stop overeating, not what we should necessarily be eating. When we think that there's one particular way of eating that's going to fix everything, that's where we're wrong. So what I always say for folks is, first of all, let's start planning realistically in a way that feels good for you. And what do you actually want? So me, for instance, if you've been following me for any period of time, I've been doing the nutritarian diet for a long time, which is a vegan, no salt, no sugar, no oil, lots of vegetables kind of diet. And I love that. But Sarasota Nick, hi, buddy. Okay. Hold on. Okay, let me come back to Nick in a second. So one side will say, don't eat meat. One side will say eat meat. But what is our priority? It's health and it's not overeating. Because if we just don't overeat, the effects of eating meat are going to be very small compared to whether we have, like if we say, okay, well, I'm a binge eater, or I'm an overeater or emotional eater. The true problem here is not whether or not we're eating meat. It's that our stomach needs this much and we're eating this much. This is the problem right here, right? Okay, that looks like a donut. That wasn't a good, that wasn't a good try. You get what I'm trying to say, right? So here's our stomach, and this is how much we're eating. So the true problem, first of all, is not what are we eating, but we need to get rid of this part first. So I personally, myself, I like to have a little bit of meat. I don't eat very much anymore, but I do really like to have some additional protein sometimes. But this idea that you have to eat 100 grams of protein or you have to have this or that or whatever, every single person's body is different. They really, really are. There are some general guidelines that everyone agrees on, which is we should have more vegetables, less processed foods. So I think just the more and more and more we can get towards that, the better. And those little details don't matter as much as ending the overeating, okay? Okay, so I'm going to take what Sarasota Nick here said, who's my buddy. Hi, buddy. Okay, I'm going to take those priorities here. So in order, Nick said work, art, other people, and self. Those are his 4 priorities. Okay, I have someone else who put, let's see, health and family. That was Rochelle's. Cheri said health, helping others. I'm going to just put others. Career, etc. Blanca said work, family, congregation, health. Okay. Now, it could be that Rochelle has already had this coaching from me, so she knew to put health first. And it could be that Cheri just has her priorities in line in the right place. But Nick, I got to pick a bone with you, my friend. And also Blanca here, putting work first over your health. That's a no-no. That's incorrect. That's incorrect. Now, I'll tell you that 9 times out of 10 or more, when I do this exercise with someone and I say, tell me your priorities, they're always either not on the list or at the bottom of the list. Okay? It's almost always that people put themselves at the bottom of the list. Now, these 2 people, they got it, okay? But what really matters, they might know that their health is first, but what really matters is that their days look like that. Now, why? So Nick, this one, work, because it's like you're saying the only thing that matters is the money part. But if you don't have your health, you can't work, right? So logically, self has to come first. And what is self? And same over here with Blanca's list here. Health is at the bottom. Now, you might in your head think, oh, it's my, my health is important, but you actually thought of work first. Subconsciously, your brain thinks of work first. So what is a correct priority list? And there is a correct here, right? The only thing that matters to create a correct priority list is that number one is health. You could put anything else you want. You could put God up here if you wanted to, but that, I've had that from a lot of people that they want to put God first, and that's fine, but that usually does not interfere with the health one. So let's talk about what is health. Health is your body. That's it. It's your body and your mind. Just what is comprised in this meat suit, right? Your brain, your stress levels, your mind, your sleep, your water, all that. So what is that? It's food, the way you're eating. It's your stress. It's your water, exercise. What other things? If we take a look at actually what they use as the risk factors for disease, a low amount of alcohol, drugs kind of a thing, or none at all. What else do we have? Community and love. So, the tribe, the family, the support system. These are indicators of health. And they are, if these things are off, sure, mind might come before body. I think they're kind of all the same, right? They're all important. If you get your mindset, you're more able to do the body thing. But if we're saying, I think it's semantics, because all that matters is we do all of it, right? We just got to do it all, because health is number one. So we just have to make sure the whole thing is working. Now, if we've got all of these things in the category, there's a lot of things that we need to do here on a daily basis in order to take care of the health first. Why do we take care of our health first? Right? Obviously, because if we don't, we can't do any of the other things. I just want to repeat that, right? You cannot do any of the other things if you don't take care of your health and your body first. So what would that actually look like? The exercise I want to do, and I'm going to leave you with this exercise today, just so you can kind of think of it for yourself. I always like, with my private clients and my group clients, I like to do this where we kind of take a full day and we go, all right, let's just look at where is the health stuff coming in our day. How do we usually plan that? So for instance, sleep is the first one that we could knock out, right? Going to bed at a decent time and sleeping long enough. So making sure that we have the right amount of sleep. This is how we could plan a day to make sure that we get all that stuff in. Then what else might we think about? We might think about food. We got the sleep one done. Food and exercise, I would say, maybe come next. So how do we do the food one? Well, this one is actually interesting. It's like plan the food, make the food, eat the food. Those are the kind of things. But we have to have bought the food too, right? So actually, the food one has to come the day before at least. You got to go shopping. You got to actually get some of that good food or plan to get that good food. And then taking some time to plan your meals, which I think, honestly, this is way too big of a rectangle for that. This can take a minute, literally a minute every day. Just kind of like seeing what you have in the fridge and going, all right, I'm going to have a smoothie and then a soup and then this, whatever. So planning, a little bit of time. Maybe you spend an hour a day making food, prepping some stuff, and maybe you do this prepping here at the end of the day. But like, if you always find yourself not, you just found me? Oh my gosh. Where have I been all your life? I've been here. How did I just find your channel now? I don't know, but we're doing this thing. It's going to be awesome. I just am starting the binge eating stuff. I've been doing healthy eating and stuff for about 12 years. And now I'm just going to binge eating right now. So stick with me. It's going to be awesome. And I'm launching a podcast next week too. So that's going to be great. Okay. Thanks for being here. Okay. So if we find that we never have time for food, let's find out. Let's also look in our day of what what we're doing instead of doing the food stuff, right? So how are you planning your day now? It's probably like you just wake up in the morning and you start going without much of a plan. That's usually what most people do. They don't really like plan anything, and they're not making sure that they're putting their health in there. So if you find yourself never having time to plan food, then or make food, then find some moments in your days where you could switch an activity. Okay, I'll tell you about that in a second. So you got make food, and then maybe you've got eat food. So this is maybe lunch, and this is like dinner. Maybe part of this is breakfast, right? So you got your food planned, you're making food, you've gotten groceries, you have lunch, you have dinner, you plan some time for that. I actually even like to plan around my meetings. So I'll take my calendar and I'll look at all the meetings that I have going, and then I'll plan around and go, okay, when can I have lunch today? Oh, look, I'm going to be a little bit hungry because I have a bunch of back-to-back meetings and then I can't get to lunch until then, but that's okay. I'll have an apple ahead of time. I just take a minute to think about that in the morning in this planning time. And I just kind of look and go, all right, when could I logically have my meals today? And what am I going to have? And do I have to like prep anything? I've gotten so good at making meals that don't require any prep, like 5 minutes maybe, on purpose, because I hate prepping. I am not the kind of person who's going to just like prep on a Sunday all day. I refuse. And we should be able to actually continue to eat healthy even without prepping, because everyone always says that the thing that holds them back is their prepping. That ain't it. The thing that's holding you back is your mindset. Let me turn this off. It's distracting me. Okay. That's right. Cheri says health has become a much bigger priority with my RA and trying to deal with it in a more natural way. Absolutely. Especially when we have some type of a diagnosis. Like I had my cancer a couple years ago. We start to go, oh, this might actually be a little more important than I had been making it. Let me try to figure this out, right? Unfortunately, that's what usually switches that priority list for us. But sometimes it doesn't even, right? But like, I'll give you an example. This morning, I was super, super busy. I went to kickboxing class until I was there till about 10:30. And then I was driving home and I had an idea for a vlog. So I stopped my car and recorded it for a while. And then I was out of time. I had to get home to do this meeting. And I hadn't really like considered that I have to make food too. And I meant to shower, but you know, it doesn't always happen. But I was coming home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to eat before this meeting because I'm really hungry. I just got out of my exercise class. And I was like, okay, I make a smoothie. And then I got home and realized, no, I need to prep a little bit before the call too. So I don't have time to make a smoothie. What could I have? And I just looked in the fridge. I had a soup in there already, warmed it up real quick. Here it is. It took like 3 minutes to warm up. Having doing what I call rolling prep, which is where you prep like maybe one thing every 3 days, like a soup or a stir fry or something like that. You just kind of like make one thing every few days. So you always have something in the fridge that you could just warm up. My brain is always thinking about fast. It's always thinking about how do we get the food thing done without having it be a big thing? Because if you're looking at this and going, oh my gosh, that's way too much work. Well, can we start changing our thoughts to what's perfect and what will be perfect for me to what can I just get done? So, bagged salad, I always say is like one of the best meals ever because it's all ready to go. You just dump and eat. And even if that's not perfect ingredients for what you want to eat or whatever, it's better than eating a burger, right? It's better than the eating all the bread and the sandwiches and the things that we end up going to because they're so much easier. You can't tell me that a bagged salad isn't fast food. It is the like you grab it, you open it, you dump it, and you start eating. It's like a banana. You grab the banana, you open it up, you eat it. You're eating. It takes so much more time to go to a fast food joint because you're actually sitting in line for a couple minutes to like. I mean, it might even only take 3 or 4 minutes for that food to come, but that's way more time than it would take you to prep a bagged salad, right? So let's not kid ourselves about how much time this stuff actually takes. Fast food can be super, super, super healthy, and it can be so fast and it can require zero thought. Like if your plan for the day was warm up a soup, open a bagged salad, and maybe make a smoothie or an oatmeal, that's so easy. It's so fast, and it requires a minute of planning. That's it. And if we get in the habit of planning this stuff over and over and over again, we have it. Then the only excuse is, do we want it or not? And that's the part we work on in our brain, right? Okay, so see, this can actually not take too much time. And then we go, all right, I got to do my exercise. So say I'm going to put exercise in this block. And then our mental health, maybe we're working on our mental health. Maybe we have an appointment with a counselor or a coach or something like that, therapist. Or we, there's so much to be said. I got to say this as a coach, there's so much to be said for mental health in reducing the number of things that you have to do during the day, reducing the stuff that is a priority for you and that is your responsibility. It's about quality of life, and it's worth it to, I just got to turn this off, gosh. It's worth it to reduce those things so that you're not constantly going. Like if you find, okay, let me see if you guys agree with this. If you find that you don't have enough time for these bare minimum things, exercise, planning your food, and eating your good food and getting sleep, tell me if you agree with this or not. If you're not making, if you feel like you don't have enough time for these things, you're not doing it right. You are giving too much importance to the rest of the list. Because say our list is like this, like Nick's list: work, art, friends and family, self. Is that what he said? What was the second one he said? Other people and self. So if we're putting these ones first, it means our day would look like, okay, first we're just going to knock off all of this. Our day would look very different. It'd be like we would care the first about, okay, we got work first. And then art. Okay, I need some time to do art. And then friends and family. Ooh, I don't have a lot of time, but maybe I'll call someone here and I'll hang out with someone here. And then self, it's like you've already used up your allotments, right? You've used up the amount of time that you could have had taking care of yourself. But if you put yourself first, what we say, pay yourself first, right? Like when you get your paycheck, even before you give some to the government, take some of it out and put it in a savings account, right? Pay yourself first. You're the one that worked for that money. It's your money. Save some of it first. Don't give it to the light company and the electric company and all that kind of stuff. Give it to yourself first, and then find out what you have left over. And it might be a small amount that you pay yourself first, right? Especially in the beginning, it might be little stuff that you're doing in the beginning to kind of get in the habit of it. But we want to start planning us first and then the rest of the list. And that's how you actually do that. Oh, Rochelle, I'm so sorry to hear this. A serious autoimmune diagnosis now. Okay, so I'm sorry to hear that. And it's the best time now to be putting this health first, right? I mean, you got nothing if you don't work on the health part, right? And Blanca says, yeah, it definitely hasn't been working to put work first, because as I think about my dad who always did that and has passed away, I wish he would have cared for himself first, and I don't want to repeat that. Absolutely. And we can have full, beautiful lives if we do like this here. Doing this first is going to create stress reduction. It's going to create, and you kind of like, then you put in whatever you can. So say you got work here, right? But everyone gets a lunch by law. You can take a breakfast with you, make a smoothie. If you find like, oh, I never have time for breakfast. Oh, well, I need to start making smoothies and having them in the fridge to just take with me, or make oatmeal or something right before I go to bed. Take 15 minutes and make your breakfast so that you can bring it with you. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here is when we're talking about rebellion, what people will do is they'll rebel against this idea, right? Oh, I can't put myself first. This other thing is so much more important. My kids are so much more important, whatever. Guess what? They're not. Your kids are, this is a very controversial thing to say, but your kids are not more important than you, because you're the one that has to take care of them, right? Your grandkids are not more important than you, because you're the one that has to take care of them and be an example for them and all that kind of stuff. The whole point of having kids and grandkids is to raise them in a way that follows your values and helps them understand these things that you have learned the hard way, right? And so when we can be an example of those things, this is how we be an example, is by putting ourselves first and teaching other people that that's how it works. And then you say in a very polite way, if something is trying to get more of your time and make it so that you can't do these very, very basic things for yourself, we need to ask that thing to go away for a little bit. Sorry, I need to focus on this. I need to actually make this a priority. Hi. You want me to open this? Okay.
I'm trying to get some water, but I can't. Thank you.
There you go. You're welcome. Can you close the door, please? Thank you. Sorry. So if something is taking more time from us, even if it's something that we haven't noticed yet is taking more time from us, we have to reprioritize in our head and go, I need to take a minute here. And this doesn't have to take very long. It could take a month or two to kind of like understand how to reprioritize your life around this. And it doesn't actually take that long for other people to start getting used to you doing this either. And if we say it to them in a way that helps them understand why we're doing it, like being mean and saying, rude and something like, oh, no, I can't go. I don't want to go. Thanks. It's not very nice versus, hey, I'm not going to be able to be going for a little bit because I'm actually going to be prioritizing cooking and things like that for a little bit so I can make sure I'm getting healthy food. Is that okay with you? Like, you understand? And no one is going to be mad at you for prioritizing your health in that way. No one would be mad at you. And we can say things in a way that help people understand. And, we talk about that peer pressure of, oh, we still want to go out with our friends and we don't want to be outside of the tribe and whatever. Those things don't happen the way that we expect them to. If anything, we end up influencing people in a better direction. Okay. Any questions or thoughts here? I'm going to end this one here today. Yeah, Cheri, it's true. For Rochelle, autoimmune is hard to deal with. You never know what the day or week will hand you. Absolutely. Okay, I guess that's about it. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's been wonderful again, as always. Do you have any questions or thoughts? I guess not. Well, it takes a little while for them to come through, but that's it for today. So what I want you guys to do is to see how your days are actually going in comparison with this, right? How are you actually running your days in a way that's going to put your health first, okay? We'll talk more about this later. Have a good day. Happy 4th of July to y'all. You're welcome, Cheri. You're welcome, Rochelle. And next week is the real plan for launching the podcast. I got sidetracked with some research for a little while, and now I'm going to be launching next week. So look out for that. It's going to be super awesome. Can't wait to see you guys in the next live. And we'll see you soon. Okay. Bye.